desire to draw closer to the very man who seems determined to keep the world at arm's length. Today's topic, how to love an avoidant man, will serve as our guiding star as we navigate the labyrinth of his carefully guarded emotions and discover how two hearts might finally meet in the quiet space he fears to share. Gather round, dear listener, as I offer a thoughtful tale of wariness, hope, uncertainty, and yes, genuine connection. By the time we conclude this long exploration, you'll see that the keepers of emotional fortresses are not always cold, unloving souls. Rather, they are often gentle hearts trapped by their own protective walls. And perhaps, with the right approach, you'll gain the insight you need to join him beyond those walls, if he'll let you. There's a certain hush that falls over the room when an avoidant man draws near, is there not? He might appear self-assured, even charismatic, but behind that outer calm lies the subtle hum of tension. He knows how to be polite, cordial, sometimes even flirty. Yet the moment things get too warm, you catch sight of that subtle pivot of his shoulders, or the sudden dimming of his once bright eyes. It's the hallmark move that signals a retreat is brewing. And so you stand there, half perplexed, half concerned, whispering to yourself, "Why does he keep his distance even when he clearly likes me?" If that resonates, consider yourself welcomed into the realm of avoidant attachment. To truly love an avoidant man, you must appreciate that this is rarely an act of malice or cruelty. Rather, it's a survival strategy shaped by a lifetime of uncertain bonds. His earliest experiences might have taught him, time and again, that vulnerability leads to betrayal or disappointment. Thus, avoidance becomes not an idle choice, but a steadfast vow. No one will see the rawness beneath my armor. Yet he's human. He longs for the warmth of another soul. He carries that longing in near silence, letting only the faintest glimmers of affection slip through. For him, the desire to love competes with the terror of surrender. Let me assure you, dear listener, it isn't you. The dilemma of yearning and retreat. The avoidant man is akin to a traveler torn between two destinations. One is labeled intimacy, the other safety. He stands at the crossroads, his heart pulled in both directions. The more you express your affection, the more he yearns to reciprocate, until it feels too perilous. Then the mental alarm sounds, shrill and undeniable. Flee, or risk captivity. So he flees. He might ghost or politely but firmly reduce contact, or drape himself in the mask of emotional neutrality. And where does that leave you? Bewildered, arms still outstretched in an embrace that never quite lands. In moments like these, it's all too easy to see him as the villain who withholds. But loving an avoidant man means seeing past the fleeting coldness, straight into the labyrinth of his fears. He isn't running from you. He's running from a phantom, an echo of old wounds so deeply etched that he can barely recall their origins. Step 1. Abandon the chase. Most of us, faced with a loved one withdrawing, experience an urgent impulse to chase them down. We want to fix, to reassure, to prove that we are not going to hurt them. But for an avoidant man, such pursuit confirms his suspicion that intimacy is a trap, a set of demands he's not sure he can meet. Hence, if there is a single principle to absorb in how to love an avoidant man, it is this: chasing intensifies his flight. Picture him as a skittish deer at the edge of the forest. If you lunge forward, eager to coax him close, he'll bound away before you have a chance to show him the morsel of kindness in your hand. Instead, you must learn to wait, to speak gently, to let him approach on his terms. Now, dear heart, do not misunderstand. Waiting does not mean reducing yourself to a doormat, nor does it mean tolerating disrespect or vanishing entirely from his life. It means shifting your role from pursuer to calm presence. The moment he senses you're not out to corner or trap him, he breathes a little easier. With that breath, a door might open a crack. Step 2. Understand the roots of his fear. To love him well, you must learn what shaped his defenses. These are not trivial details, but cornerstones of his entire worldview. Think back, if you can, to the child who learned that nobody was coming to meet his needs, or that affection was something doled out conditionally. That same child has grown into a man who believes trusting another is an inevitable heartbreak. And so your unconditional acceptance stands in direct opposition to everything he's come to expect. When you accept him, prickly edges, silences, caution, and all, it evokes both comfort and dread. Comfort, because maybe this time love will not be a lie. Dread, because what if you betray him like the rest? Hence, he tests you. He sees if you lash out when he's distant. He wonders if you'll scold or shame him for needing time alone, or if you'll quietly resent him for not matching your emotional pace. Knowing this helps you meet those tests, not as manipulations to resent, but as unconscious attempts to see if you're safe. Step 3. Communicate without cornering. An avoidant man often experiences a swirl of contradictions. He craves closeness but is petrified by it. So how do you talk to him without spooking him further? That question is, in truth, an art form. Here's a subtle approach. Be explicit, but not overwhelming. Instead of the ambiguous, "we need to talk," which sets alarm bells ringing in his mind, offer something like, "There's something I'd love your thoughts on, but I want to respect your space. When would be a good time?" In those words, you telegraph two vital messages. I value your input. I understand and honor your boundaries. Such clarity can be a balm to a man accustomed to hidden agendas or demands. He can walk into the discussion free from the fear that he's about to be blindsided by an ambush of emotional outpouring he's unprepared to handle. Step 4. Build fairness and shared decisions. You might ask, but how do I show him I want commitment without terrifying him? The secret often lies in fairness and predictable structure. In his mind, the greatest terror is the unpredictable wave of obligations or judgments. So paradoxically, the more you discuss expectations openly, the safer it can feel. Sit down, perhaps over a calm cup of coffee, and say something like, "Here's what I need in a relationship to feel secure. Do you think these needs align with what you're able to give right now?" Present your boundaries and desires as a straightforward conversation, not an ultimatum. Then, importantly, ask for his perspective on what he envisions, on finances, living arrangements, personal space, communication frequency, future commitments. It may seem unromantic, but for an avoidant man, the essence of romance is not in the grand gestures. It is in the quiet assurance that he won't be trapped by unspoken rules. In this sense, clarity is the bedrock of the love he can accept. Over time, these direct, fair dialogues help him see that he's not relinquishing his identity or freedom by growing closer to you. Step 5. Demonstrate consistency. One of the most profound acts of love you can offer is consistency. The anxious or unpredictable lover might, with the best intentions, inadvertently confirm his worst fears, namely that at any moment, love could become a weapon. But a consistent partner, that is an oasis in the desert. If you say you'll respect his alone time, do so. If you promise you'll communicate calmly instead of lashing out, follow through even when frustration gnaws at your mind. Each time your actions align with your promises, you inch closer to a place where he can loosen his grip on fear. Mind you, consistency does not mean you stifle your own emotions or needs. It means you present them reliably, calmly, in the ways you said you would. If you need to discuss a simmering concern, approach him with the courtesy and directness he's come to expect from you. Over time, that stable environment fosters a trust few have ever given him. Step 6. Avoid overfunctioning. There's a temptation, especially if you suspect a man is about to pull away, to pour on the reassurance. You want to solve his stress, fix every worry, and prove your worth through ceaseless giving. Yet ironically, this can backfire. Why? Because an avoidant man already fears that connection means losing himself in someone else's needs. If you overfunction, doing everything for him, anticipating his every desire, chasing him with a fervent, "I can fix it all," he may interpret that as smothering. No, the better path is to let him see you have a life of your own. Show him that while you long for companionship, you don't require him to validate your existence. This approach not only sidesteps the dynamic of pushing him away, but often piques his curiosity. He sees a person standing firmly on their own 2 feet, someone able to love him without leaning on him for every breath. Step 7. Embrace your own needs. Often the question arises, do I have to tiptoe forever, never voicing my hopes or frustrations? Absolutely not. Loving an avoidant man is not an invitation to erase yourself. Instead, it's a dance of mutual respect. Make your own desires clear. Let him know that his sense of security matters, but so does yours. If, for instance, you require verbal expressions of affection to feel steady, say so plainly. Don't bury your needs out of fear you'll scare him. If he truly wants to learn how to form healthy bonds, he must see how your feelings factor in. The difference is that you present these needs in a calm, structured manner. I'd appreciate hearing it when you care about me. It helps me feel close. Could we find a way for you to share that which doesn't feel forced? Such an invitation respects his boundaries while still shining a light on your own. Step 8. The magic of transparency. It might sound quaint, but transparent communication can be magical for building love with an avoidant man. He's been taught that secrets are inevitable and that emotions will pop up like hidden tripwires. By proactively naming your emotional states, especially the mild ones, you defuse that fear. "Oh, I'm feeling a bit stressed about work. Just wanted you to know in case I seem distant." No big drama, no accusations, just an FYI about your inner world. This courtesy can encourage him to risk the same kind of openness. For instance, if he sees your calm honesty, he may respond in kind one day. "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Need some quiet time tonight." In that moment, the fortress door cracks open. You see him stepping out with a small flicker of trust, rather than forcing you to interpret his silence as an emotional vacuum. Yet even with the best intentions, he may still have times he pulls away. Suddenly, thoroughly. In that scenario, your immediate reaction might be to panic or confront. But remember the principle from step 1. Avoid the chase. Instead, hold your ground. Mentally, remind yourself, he's not punishing me. He's not deciding he hates me. He's triggered by his own fear. Then, give him the space he evidently needs. Send one calm message that says you notice his withdrawal and will be here to talk when he's ready, if you so desire. Then, step back. During that step back, tend to yourself, your hobbies, your friends, your emotional well-being. He may remain behind his walls a day or 2 or even longer, but if you keep a steady presence, he'll see that you aren't chasing him with pitchforks, nor vanishing in a swirl of betrayal. He might just find it safe enough to re-engage. Does he always come back? Not inevitably. Sometimes an avoidant man, locked in his fear, chooses to remain in solitude. Yet if that is the case, it isn't your failing. Nor is it necessarily the end of hope. Sometimes it's a sign that he simply isn't yet ready to do the work that love demands. What we aim for is not a quick fix, but a transformation. We want the avoidant man to discover that he can, in fact, be safe in love, that genuine closeness need not mean utter subjugation. Over the long haul, if you two gradually build trust, through calm dialogues, mutual respect, and an ever-present sense of fairness, he might see that your presence is not an incursion, but a gift. Day by day, you prove that you're not out to take anything from him that he isn't prepared to give. You show that collaboration is possible, that love can flow both ways without devouring his independence. By the time he truly internalizes that message, you'll find him stepping forward, making thoughtful gestures, or even initiating emotional conversations. So we circle back to our original question: how to love an avoidant man? The short answer: patience and clarity. The longer answer: a weaving of compassion, awareness of his hidden fears, willingness to stand in your own self-worth, and a gentler approach to all forms of communication. He isn't cruel. He's simply well defended. He isn't a lost cause. He's just unpracticed at receiving care without feeling cornered. If you can meet him with unwavering calm, stable self-regard, and open, consistent communication, you create an environment in which an avoidant man can, for perhaps the first time, dare to be loved. And for your part, do not sacrifice your own sense of self. Real love, yes, even with an avoidant, means you can keep your identity intact. You are not made to be his caretaker or savior. You are a companion, a partner, an equal. If the path grows too heavy with compromise, take heart that you have the right to step away. But if he is earnest, if you see him inching toward your outstretched hand, then with each passing day, you just might find there's more room in that fortress than either of you expected. No one said this journey would be simple, but in the quiet warmth between two souls, yours, courageous and open, his, cautious yet yearning, lies the possibility of a bond that transcends old fears. And that, dear listener, can be truly splendid. Take these insights and weigh them against your life. There's no guarantee of a fairy tale ending, but there is a genuine hope that with steady empathy, an unerring respect for each other's boundaries, and a willingness to communicate beyond the usual illusions, you can indeed learn how to love an avoidant man, and perhaps inspire him to love you in return.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.